The dynasty rule is real, and once you understand it, you will never look at retirement the same way again. Stay until the end of this video because a prayer is waiting for you there, one that will seal everything you are about to receive. Almost no one will say this out loud. The moment you begin planning for retirement, you stop building an empire. You trade the architect's compass for a rocking chair. And the cost of that trade is not measured in dollars. It is measured in dynasties never born, in family lines that fade instead of flourish, in grandchildren who will start from zero because their grandfather stopped at 65. Retirement is not a finish line. It is a ceiling, invisible, hard, and built directly above the height of your potential. Most people spend 40 years climbing toward that ceiling and then call it success. Solomon would call it a diagnosis. A man who plans to stop is a man who has already decided how small his legacy will be. Picture the plan most people call financial wisdom. Work for decades, save a percentage, wait long enough, then slow everything down and eventually stop. The dream behind that plan is not freedom. It is escape. And escape is the psychology of someone who never fully believed they could build something worth staying for. That is the consumer trap, dressed in the language of discipline so it feels respectable. Saving to stop working is a strategy built entirely on subtraction. Every withdrawal from a retirement account is a vote for consumption over creation. You are not building anything when you draw down. You are dismantling, slowly, quarter by quarter, until the account is empty, the years are gone, and what remains is the quiet, heavy question of whether it was all just for you. Solomon understood something the modern financial industry refuses to acknowledge. Ecclesiastes 2:18-19 records him saying that he hated all his toil under the sun, knowing he must leave it to someone who comes after him, someone who may be wise or may be a fool. Notice what Solomon is diagnosing. Not the problem of hard work, the problem of work without transmission. Labor without dynasty is labor that evaporates the moment you stop. The deception buried inside modern financial architecture runs deeper than most people suspect. The retirement system was engineered around a single assumption, that the goal of a working life is to accumulate enough to stop producing. Investment accounts designed to be drawn down. Annuities calculated to the precise edge of your actuarial expectation. The entire structure presupposes your death as the endpoint of the plan. Sit with that. A system that plans for your death rather than your dynasty. It was never designed to transfer power. It transfers assets to institutions the moment your estate settles. The truly wealthy invert this entirely. Instead of building toward the moment you stop, you build toward the moment you hand off. The goal is not your last year of comfort. It is the first year of your grandchild's inheritance. That one shift in orientation rewires every financial decision you make from this day forward. How you hold property, how you structure a business, what you teach your children at the dinner table instead of leaving the television to teach them. When the endpoint is a dynasty instead of a retirement date, the entire financial architecture of your life must be rebuilt from the ground up. Most people never rebuild it. Not because they lack the resources, but because they never receive the diagnosis. And without the diagnosis, the disease continues undetected until the account runs dry and the window has closed. Tell me in the comments right now where in the world you are watching from, because what you are about to receive is not generic financial advice. It is ancient surgical wisdom, and I need to know you are present for it. Solomon did not inherit a comfortable life. He inherited a kingdom mid-construction. David, his father, had accumulated cedar, iron, bronze, and stone, materials Solomon had never asked for, in quantities that staggered the imagination. 1 Chronicles 22:14 records David saying he had taken great pains to provide for the temple of the Lord, 100,000 talents of gold, 1,000,000 talents of silver, and bronze and iron beyond weighing. David did not consume that. He did not retire on it. He transferred it. That is a dynasty in motion. Proverbs 13:22. Not the verse you have heard 1,000 times, but the one most teachers rush past on their way to something more comfortable. Read it slowly. A good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children, but the sinner's wealth is stored up for the righteous. Two movements inside one sentence. The first, the righteous man thinks past his own children. He is operating on a timeline that exceeds his own life expectancy, not planning what he will enjoy, but what his grandchildren will be able to hold. The second movement stings. The wealth of the undisciplined does not disappear. It is merely redirected. It flows toward those who built systems capable of receiving it. Solomon is not describing charity here. He is describing gravity. Generational capital flows toward those who constructed the proper basins to hold it. Everyone else watches it pass straight through their hands. What most people miss about Proverbs 13 is that the entire chapter is not about money. It is about the transmission of wisdom as a prerequisite for the transmission of wealth. A wise son heeds his father's instruction. Wealth hastily gained dwindles, but whoever gathers little by little increases it. Every prudent man acts with knowledge. Solomon is not laying out a financial plan. He is describing a formation process. A dynasty is not a bank account. It is a trained mind multiplied across generations. The mechanics of intergenerational transfer are not complicated. They are uncomfortable. To transfer wealth to your grandchildren, you must first make decisions that feel like sacrifice to your present self. You must choose the permanent foundation over the personal comfort upgrade. When income grows, lifestyle does not automatically grow with it. Legal structures are built. Trusts are established. Property is titled in ways designed to protect future heirs rather than simplify today's paperwork. None of that feels exciting in the moment. All of it is essential in the long architecture of a family that endures. If this wisdom is resonating, if something in this is striking the deep place that always knew you were built for more than a countdown to 65, go ahead and press the like button right now. This channel exists to give you the tools that most financial educators are too afraid or too uninformed to teach. Solomon's wealth at its documented peak represented a generational project. The mines of Ophir, the trading fleets on the Red Sea, the alliances secured through covenant and not just commerce. None of that was built for one man's comfort. All of it was built to outlast him. And the men who build with that same intention, who work toward a legacy rather than an exit, report something that retirement-focused workers almost never experience. They do not run out of energy. They accelerate. The reason is not complicated once you see it. The human soul was not designed to count down. It was designed to compound. When your daily labor is connected to a purpose that extends past your own heartbeat, the psychological experience of work transforms entirely. You are no longer grinding toward an escape. You are planting toward a harvest you will never personally eat. And somehow that makes the planting feel more alive, not less. Isaiah 65:22 says that God's chosen ones will long enjoy the work of their hands. Not complete the work. Enjoy it. There is no retirement in that verse. There is flourishing, ongoing, sustained, generational flourishing that does not require a finish line to feel meaningful. Martin Luther enters the conversation here, not as a theologian of grace, but as a man who spent decades reconstructing an entire civilization's understanding of work. Luther declared that ordinary work faithfully executed is holy, not church work, not ministry work. The farmer, the craftsman, the merchant who builds a trading structure his sons will one day operate, each one in Luther's understanding was a hand through which God himself served the neighbor. The implication for dynasty builders is radical. Your financial work is not separate from your spiritual calling. It is the very instrument of provision for those who come after you. To stop building is not retirement. It is abdication. A true asset, seen through this lens, is something your great-grandchild can hold and build from. Land with legal protections already in place. A family business with documented systems not dependent on one person's memory or energy. A recorded body of wisdom your descendants find decades from now and open with wonder. Something that produces value independent of your continued physical presence. Before you acquire anything significant, ask one question plainly. Will someone after me be able to hold this and multiply it? If the honest answer is no, you already know what to do. Stop consuming the seed. Every dollar is either becoming a dynasty or becoming smoke. There is no neutral transaction. The psychology of the patriarch is not arrogance. It is weight. It is the willingness to carry the spiritual authority that comes with being the one who goes first. In every family dynasty, someone was the first. Someone made the decision to stop spending everything and start building something. Someone looked at their children and their children's children, people not yet born, and said, I am responsible for them too. That is not a financial calculation. That is a covenant posture. Augustine of Hippo drew a distinction that changes everything for the dynasty builder. He described two cities, one organized around the love of self to the point of contempt for God, another organized around the love of God to the point of contempt for self. The earthly city consumes. It plans for its own comfort and calls that wisdom. The city of God builds and transmits. When Augustine describes the citizens of the heavenly city as stewards and not owners of what passes through their hands, he is describing the exact psychological posture required to transfer wealth across generations. You do not own your estate, you are its steward. You received it and you will transmit it, enlarged, structured, and spiritually grounded to those who come after you. The moment that shift happens inside you, every spending decision changes quietly and permanently. So what does this actually look like today? Right now, regardless of your current net worth, make one structural decision. Take your current income and divide it into 3 explicit allocations. One portion for living, one for building, one designated exclusively for transfer to the next generation, a protected reserve never touched for personal comfort. The exact percentage matters less than the consistency of the practice. Even a small amount preserved and never consumed begins the psychological and structural formation of a dynasty. The account is almost secondary. The discipline is primary. The discipline trains the mind trains the children, and the dynasty is already in motion before the assets are large enough to impress anyone. Proverbs 21:20 says the wise store up choice food and olive oil, but fools gulp theirs down. That verse rarely appears on financial motivation posts. It is not exciting. It is surgical. The fool consumes everything available. The wise create reserves that survive the moment and serve the future. The difference between those two people is not income. It is the question they ask when the money arrives. Is this for now, or is this for what comes after me? Jonathan Edwards argued with the precision of someone who had stared long and hard at the brevity of human days that the only labor worth calling great is labor whose fruit outlasts the laborer. Not because the laborer is forgotten, but because the seed he planted continued to grow in soil he would never personally walk again. A man who builds only for himself has already set a limit on how far the glory of God can travel through his hands. The retirement dream is not evil, it is simply too small. A plan built for one lifetime, one body, one season of ease. And you were not assembled for a single season. Ecclesiastes 3:14 says that whatever God does endures forever, nothing added, nothing taken away. The model your God established does not plan for its own cessation. It endures. And the man or woman who builds in alignment with that model builds something that endures with it. This is not a retirement plan. It is a dynasty declaration. And it does not start when the account reaches a certain number. It does not start when the children are older. It starts now, with the decision you make today, running forward through the lives of people who will carry your name into centuries you cannot yet imagine. If this channel has given you something true today, if it has cut through the noise and reached the place in you that always knew you were called to build and not merely survive, please subscribe before we go to prayer, because this is only the beginning of what Solomon has left for those willing to receive it. Now close your eyes if you can, or align your thoughts with mine. Father, we come before you not as consumers but as stewards. We confess that we have planned too small, that we have aimed at comfort when you called us to legacy. We ask now for the wisdom you gave Solomon in abundance, not for our own glory, but for the flourishing of those who come after us. Teach us to see beyond our own lifetimes. Teach us to build what endures. Protect the seed we plant today. Let it multiply through our children and their children and their children's children until your name is glorified in a legacy we began with trembling and faithful hands. We receive your provision. We release our fear. We choose the dynasty. Amen. Go and build. The Lord of every generation goes before you.